On today's podcast, we'll be covering 4 social distancing signs and floor markings, so stay tuned. Welcome to Warehouse Safety Tips. You can find the show notes to each episode, links to information mentioned on the podcast, the social media platforms we're on, and anything else related to the podcast at warehousesafetytips.com. Now, if you're a seasoned podcast listener, this podcast is going to be different from most you listen to. It's based around exactly what the name implies, warehouse safety tips. And since the people in this industry are busy, we know that time is money and each episode will be as short and to the point as possible. And now, with all of that out of the way, let's get to the podcast. On our last podcast, we spoke about social distancing preparation tips. On that podcast, one of the tips was social distancing signs and floor markings. So this week we're going to cover 4 items within that category that you can use to implement social distancing. First on our list are signs. There are so many social distancing signs out there to choose from, and if you can't find what you're in need of, you can even have one custom made for you. They range from the health side of things, instructing you to do things such as washing your hands, to staying 6 feet apart at all times. And even though you usually think of signs as being upright, posted on a wall, many times these signs are adhered to the floor. Second in our list are segments. You may not be aware of the name, but you probably have seen one, probably a bunch of them. Essentially, a segment is a piece of pre-cut floor tape. And instead of a sign or other floor markings that we'll be covering, these segments provide designated spacing. And although it doesn't have anything to do with social distancing, think of the line that you'd stand behind while throwing darts. Before moving on, here's a word from one of our sponsors. If you've ever been to or worked in a warehouse, you know just how important safety is to both management and staff. It's almost impossible to go 10 steps without seeing safety tape, angles, signs, and/or safety products. It's these items that show us how to be safe and avoid danger in the workplace. And if you're looking for the best products to make this happen, look no further than Mighty Line. Mighty Line floor signs and floor markings offer the best industrial products out there. We're proud to have Mighty Line as the official floor sign and floor marking company for the Warehouse Safety Tips podcast and site. Go to mightylinetape.com/safety tips to request a sample pack of their incredible safety signs and floor markings. Now back to the podcast. Third in our list are footprints. If you've been to a grocery store as of late, you've probably seen that some of the aisles have one-way directions. Footprints would be great for that. And once again, even though it doesn't have anything to do with social distancing, you may have seen footprints used while taking tours, showing you what path to follow. In addition to showing direction, they're also great for showing where to stand in a line to ensure that you're socially distanced correctly. And lastly, our 4th floor marking are dots. Since dots are round, they're best used as place markers for where to stand. And regardless of which signs and/or floor markings you use, be sure to post them anywhere and everywhere social distancing guidelines are applicable. Doing so, you'll keep your visitors, staff, and customers as safe as possible. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Warehouse Safety Tips. If you visit warehousesafetytips.com, you'll find the show notes for this episode and access to all of our blog posts, previous podcasts, advertiser information, and much more. Thank you for listening to Warehouse Safety Tips and have a safe day.